All right. Ready to unlock some serious negotiation superpowers.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Today we're diving deep into Never Split the Difference
Yeah, great book.
by Chris Voss.
Former FBI hostage negotiator.
Exactly.
Really interesting guy.
You might be thinking hostage negotiation. What's that got to do with, like, my daily life?
Right.
But trust me, Voss has taken these high-stakes strategies he honed in the FBI
Yeah,
and made them super relevant for everyday situations.
absolutely. It's amazing how he's done that.
So how did he go from Harvard
Oh, yeah. He didn't start out in hostage situations
to
the FBI.
Yeah.
It's actually a really fascinating journey.
I mean, it's hard to imagine him in the hallowed halls of academia.
He started with a very traditional approach to negotiation,
Yeah.
studying at Harvard,
Yeah,
assuming it was all about logic and strategy.
makes sense.
Very traditional.
But then he meets Robert Mnookin.
Oh, this is key.
This is where things get interesting.
Mnookin was the director of the Harvard Negotiation Research Project,
Wow.
renowned expert in conflict resolution,
Okay.
and he recognized the unique perspective Voss brought.
Because he was an actual FBI hostage negotiator.
Exactly. Real-world experience.
I feel like they don't often see eye to eye, you know?
Sometimes.
Mhm.
But in this case, Mnookin really saw the value
Yeah.
of that real-world experience.
Like challenging the theoretical approaches
Absolutely.
taught at Harvard.
Yeah.
And then Voss gets thrown headfirst into these intense situations,
Where lives were literally on the line.
like the Attica prison riots
Oh, yeah, that was a huge turning point.
and the Munich Olympics massacre.
Absolutely tragic events.
And it really forced the FBI to rethink their whole approach.
They realized a purely forceful approach just wasn't cutting it.
Yeah, they needed something more.
They needed empathy,
Okay.
understanding the hostage taker's psychology,
Right.
de-escalating the situation.
So it wasn't just about, like, overwhelming force.
They had to find a new way.
It's like a whole different world.
They started incorporating therapeutic techniques
Really?
into their training.
Like hostage negotiation therapy.
Well, not exactly therapy,
Yeah.
but they recognized that hostage situations were often driven by these intense emotions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was less about logic
Uh-huh.
and more about understanding the hostage taker,
Okay.
their fears, their motivations.
So, like, using therapy to build rapport,
Exactly, creating a space for dialogue.
I can see how that would be helpful.
And this is where Getting to Yes comes in.
Ah, that groundbreaking book on negotiation.
It introduced some key concepts
Like focusing on interests over positions.
and seeking win-win solutions.
But how does that work in a hostage situation?
Right, where one side is clearly in the wrong.
Exactly.
Well, Voss points out that while Getting to Yes was amazing for a lot of negotiations,
Yeah.
it wasn't always effective in those really high-stakes situations.
Where emotions are just running so high.
Exactly.
So they had to find a way to blend those psychology-driven techniques.
With the urgency and danger of a hostage situation.
And that's what Voss's approach is all about, right?
It all boils down to understanding and influencing human behavior,
Okay.
mastering the emotional game,
Interesting.
realizing that logic and reason, they kind of take a backseat to emotions.
Especially in a crisis.
Exactly.
So he's saying these skills aren't just for hostage negotiators.
Anyone who wants to communicate better
Uh-huh.
and get what they want.
Can benefit.
Absolutely.
He even says, negotiation is nothing more than communication with results.
Right, think about it.
Okay.
You're constantly negotiating
Yeah, I guess so.
with your boss, your partner, even your kids.
I never thought about it that way.
It's woven into our daily lives.
So we're all negotiators.
In a sense, yes.
But we're often so afraid of it.
We shouldn't see it as a battle.
Okay.
It's a natural part of human interaction.
He says, you don't need to like it.
You just need to understand that's how the world works.
So instead of avoiding these conversations,
We should embrace them
okay,
as opportunities to shape our lives.
and get what we want.
But it's not about manipulating people.
Right.
Voss's approach is about communication,
Uh-huh.
achieving mutually beneficial outcomes.
So let's dive into some of his real-world experiences.
Yeah.
He talks about a bank robbery in Brooklyn,
Oh, yeah, one of his early cases.
thrown right into the deep end.
It wasn't a simple negotiation. So much confusion, misinformation
And media was already spinning this narrative.
about an international crime ring.
Added a whole other layer of pressure.
Voss had to figure out what was really going on.
He couldn't rely on assumptions.
He had to be open to new information,
So he was using those active listening skills.
trying to understand the hostage takers.
Right. And then there's the voice tone.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial.
He talks about 3 different voice tones.
The late-night FM DJ voice,
Okay.
the positive, playful voice.
And the assertive voice.
Right.
So break this down for me.
The late-night FM DJ voice.
Okay.
It's about projecting authority and trustworthiness.
Like a calming presence.
Exactly. Slow, calm, downward inflection.
Okay.
Then you have the assertive voice,
Mm-hmm.
but Voss actually cautions against using that too often.
Really? Why?
It can trigger defensiveness.
Makes sense.
Instead, he encourages the positive, playful voice.
In a hostage situation.
It sounds counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but it's disarming.
Okay.
Creates warmth and rapport.
So they feel more comfortable opening up.
Exactly.
It's not about cracking jokes.
No, it's about a tone that builds connection.
Okay, so in this bank robbery case,
Yeah.
Voss uses a technique called mirroring.
Repeating the last few words.
Like, I'm listening, I understand.
Exactly, creating that connection.
And encouraging them to keep talking.
It's powerful.
And then there's labeling,
Acknowledging their emotions.
even if they're negative.
It shows you're listening.
You're trying to understand?
Right.
The hostage taker was frustrated.
His getaway driver had abandoned him.
Oh, wow.
Voss acknowledged that frustration.
Okay.
Said something like, "It seems like you're feeling pretty let down by your driver."
And that led to a breakthrough.
The hostage taker, Chris Voss,
Okay.
let slip that his driver had fled.
So these simple techniques, mirroring and labeling, helped de-escalate the situation.
And gained valuable information.
He wasn't trying to trick them.
No, he was trying to understand them.
And that
Is
understand
what allowed him to make progress.
and bring the situation to a peaceful resolution.
It was amazing to see.
He was walking a tightrope
Trying to build rapport.
while maintaining control.
It was a delicate balance.
We could all learn from this.
Even if we never face a hostage situation.
Right. These skills are so valuable.
And that's what we'll explore further.
Those specific tactics and strategies.
And see how they apply to our everyday lives.
Stay tuned.
We're just getting started. Okay, so we talk about a lot of those key takeaways.
Yeah, from those early hostage situations.
Exactly. And how they shaped Voss's whole approach.
But there's one tactic I really want to dig into.
Okay, which one?
The power of no.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It seems so counterintuitive.
It is, right.
We're so conditioned to get to yes.
We want that agreement.
But Voss is saying no is actually super valuable.
It's not about shutting down the conversation.
So it's not like, no, I don't want to talk to you.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's about unlocking something deeper.
Okay, I'm listening.
A no can actually signal that the other person is really engaged,
They're thinking critically.
not just blindly agreeing.
Interesting.
And that can shift the whole power dynamic.
So how do we use no strategically?
Voss gives this great example
Okay.
about dealing with telemarketers.
Oh, I hate those calls.
Instead of asking, "Do you have a few minutes to talk?"
Which is what I usually say.
Try saying, "Is now a bad time?"
Okay.
It almost forces a no response.
I see.
Gives them a sense of control.
And then they're more likely to open up.
It's really interesting how that works,
It's like giving them permission to push back.
which then makes them more receptive.
Weird.
And this insight actually came from Voss's experience,
Okay.
answering phones for a crisis hotline.
Wow, so he was dealing with real crises.
He was, and he realized pushing for that premature yes,
Yeah.
it didn't really address the root cause.
They might have said yes to appease him,
Exactly.
but they weren't ready to change.
But when people felt safe enough to say no,
That's when the real breakthroughs happen.
they could voice their real concerns.
So no is like a key to unlocking honesty.
It's about creating that safe space.
Okay, so we've got the power of no.
In our negotiation toolkit,
What else?
Voss talks a lot about tactical empathy.
It's more than just being nice.
It's not about feeling sorry for them.
Okay.
It's about understanding their perspective.
And using that to influence their decisions.
Exactly. It's strategic.
So how do we actually do that?
Voss says it starts with labeling.
Okay, what's labeling?
It's basically naming their emotions.
Like, you seem frustrated.
Exactly. Or it sounds like you're concerned about.
So you're reflecting their feelings back to them.
It shows you're paying attention.
And you're trying to understand.
And that you can use calibrated questions.
Reminding what those are.
Those open-ended questions
Okay.
that start with what or how,
So instead of saying, why are you upset?
which can put them on the defensive.
You might say, what happened that made you feel this way?
Exactly. It encourages them to open up.
It's less confrontational.
And more inviting.
It's like emotional intelligence is just as important as any tactic.
Absolutely. Voss even tells this story
Okay.
about a student who used these techniques
Yeah.
to get a $1 million donation for the Girl Scouts.
Wow, $1 million?
The donor was initially resistant,
Okay.
but the student used labels and calibrated questions.
To understand her motivations.
Exactly, and they uncovered this deep personal connection.
So it wasn't about the logic of donating.
It was about the emotional resonance.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's the power of tactical empathy.
Okay, so we've got tactical empathy.
And Voss also talks about bending reality.
What? Bending reality.
It sounds crazy, but it's really about understanding how our brains work.
Okay.
Our perception of value is often irrational,
We like to think we're logical.
but emotions play a huge role.
So how do we bend reality in a negotiation?
Voss uses techniques like anchoring and framing.
Okay, break those down for me.
Anchoring is setting a high starting point.
Like throwing out a big number.
Exactly. It shifts their expectations
So if I'm selling a car, I might mention a similar car that sold for way more.
to make your asking price seem more reasonable.
Interesting.
And framing is about how you present the deal,
Okay.
highlighting the positives, minimizing the negatives.
So instead of saying, this car will cost you $20,000.
You could say, for just $500 a month, you can drive away in this beauty.
It sounds so much better that
It
way.
shifts the focus.
It's amazing how language can have such a big impact.
And Voss actually used these techniques
Yeah.
to get a great deal on his own Toyota 4Runner.
No way, really?
He started with ridiculously low offer,
Okay.
and then he shifted the focus to emotional value.
So he appealed to the salesman's emotions.
Exactly. He made it personal
And he used calibrated questions.
to make the salesman feel in control.
So it wasn't about being aggressive.
It was about understanding the psychology.
And then there's the idea of hidden players.
Oh, yeah, those behind-the-table influencers.
He calls them level 2 players.
You've got to identify them.
Because they can make or break the deal.
Voss stresses mapping out the whole playing field
Understanding their motivations.
and addressing their needs.
So it's not just about the person across the table.
There might be someone else pulling the strings
How do you even uncover these hidden influencers?
by asking the right questions.
Now, who else is involved?
Or what are their concerns?
It's like detective work.
Voss tells a story about a negotiation
Okay.
that failed because they missed a key decision maker.
Ouch, that's a costly mistake.
Preparation is key.
You got to do your research.
And then there are black swans.
Black swans, what are those?
Those unexpected pieces of information.
Okay.
The unknown unknowns.
That can change everything.
They could pop up out of nowhere.
How do you prepare for that?
Voss says it's about deep listening,
Uh-huh.
active observation, and digging into the religion of your counterpart.
Their religion.
Not necessarily their spiritual beliefs,
Okay.
but their core values, their motivation.
What makes them tick?
Exactly, their worldview.
So you can anticipate their reactions.
And identify potential black swans.
That's like understanding their operating system.
And Voss has this amazing story
Okay.
about a man threatening to blow himself up
Oh my gosh.
in Washington, D.C.
That's terrifying.
They learned he was a devout Christian,
Okay.
and they used that knowledge.
To connect with him.
They talked about the dawn of the third day.
A powerful symbol in Christianity.
It created a sense of connection,
Wow. So they appealed to his faith.
and it helped de-escalate the situation.
Incredible.
That's the power of uncovering black swans.
So we shouldn't dismiss unusual behavior as crazy.
Voss says, it's not crazy, it's a clue.
There's usually a reason behind it.
It could be misinformation, hidden constraints.
Or even just a misunderstanding.
Like in this one case with a student
Okay.
negotiating with a former employee
Uh-huh.
who was threatening a lawsuit.
Sounds messy.
The student thought he was just being greedy,
Okay.
but it turned out he had outdated information.
So it was a simple misunderstanding.
Once they cleared that up, the lawsuit was dropped.
It's so important to understand their perspective.
Before jumping to conclusions,
Communication breakdowns can escalate quickly.
and this leads to another important point,
Okay.
face-to-face interactions.
Even in our digital age.
Voss says no matter how much research you do,
There's some information you can only get in person. It's about those subtle cues.
body language, facial expressions.
You can't get that through email.
And Voss tells a story about a student who got a great real estate deal
Okay.
because he met with a broker in person.
He picked up on those subtle cues.
Exactly. He uncovered a black swan.
That the seller was actually more motivated than they let on.
He was able to structure a deal that worked for everyone,
It's about building that genuine connection.
humanizing the negotiation.
We're dealing with people, not just numbers.
That's what it's all about.
This has been so insightful.
We've covered a lot.
No, tactical empathy, bending reality, black swans, level 2 players.
It's a lot to take in.
I feel like I've got a whole new set of tools.
We've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to learn.
But this is a great foundation.
I'm ready to keep digging.
Let's dive into the final part.
And see what other secrets we can unlock. All right, we've covered so much ground with Voss's strategies.
From no to bending reality, it's a lot.
But there's this one big idea that really stuck with me.
Okay, what's that?
Never splitting the difference.
Yeah, that's a core principle for him.
Yeah. It challenges the whole idea of compromise.
Which we're always told is the goal, right?
Like meeting in the middle.
Finding that 50-50 split.
But Voss's true negotiation goes beyond that.
He says splitting the difference often leaves both sides unsatisfied.
It's like cutting a cake in half when you could both have a whole slice.
Exactly. It's about finding creative solutions.
So how do we move beyond splitting the difference?
It starts with understanding your BT&A,
Our best alternative to a negotiated agreement?
your backup plan, what you'll do if the deal falls through.
It's your walkaway point.
And it gives you so much power.
Because you know you have other options.
If I'm negotiating a salary, my BT&A might be another job offer.
So you're not desperate to take the first thing that comes along.
Exactly. You have leverage.
Okay, so I know my BATNA. What's next?
Then you focus on understanding their needs and interests.
This is where tactical empathy comes in.
Using those calibrated questions.
To dig deeper, understand their motivations.
It's not just about what they want, but why they want it.
It gives you the leverage to craft a win-win solution.
Voss says it's not about outsmarting or overpowering them.
It's about finding that sweet spot where both sides feel good.
But what happens when you just can't seem to agree?
It's like you hit a wall.
Voss says be willing to walk away.
If the deal doesn't meet your needs.
Never be needy for a deal, he says.
Neediness is a deal killer.
It's about having confidence.
Knowing you have other options.
That abundance mindset.
It shows the other side you're not desperate.
So we've got our BT&A, tactical empathy, and the confidence to walk away.
But things can get tense in a negotiation.
Emotions run high.
How do we handle that?
Voss says stay calm, avoid emotional reactions.
That's easier said than done.
When you're attacked, pause.
Take a breath.
Ask a calibrated question.
Instead of reacting defensively,
You're shifting the dynamic.
help me understand why you feel that way.
It creates a space for dialogue.
It's so powerful.
And then there's the Chris discount.
Using your name.
It's so simple.
But it humanizes you.
Creates a connection.
It's like I'm a person just like you.
Voss used it to get a discount on his Forerunner.
He's full of surprises.
It's about building that human connection.
Even in impersonal transactions.
And finally, Voss talks about negotiation styles.
Oh yeah, there are different types.
Analysts, accommodators, and assertives.
So, like personality types for negotiators.
Kind of, yeah.
Tell me more.
Analysts are data-driven, detail-oriented.
They probably love spreadsheets.
Accommodators are all about relationships and harmony.
The peacemakers.
And assertives are action-oriented, results-driven.
Okay, so how do we deal with these different styles?
Voss says adapt your approach.
Speak their language.
Understand their motivations.
Tailor your communication.
It's about being flexible.
This deep dive has been amazing.
We've learned so much from Chris Voss.
I feel like I can negotiate anything now.
The key takeaway is negotiation is a skill anyone can learn.
It's not about manipulation or aggression.
It's about understanding people, building relationships, finding creative solutions.
Never splitting the difference.
It's about getting what you deserve.
I feel empowered.
Go out there and negotiate like a pro.
Thanks for joining me on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
You have the power to negotiate a more fulfilling life.
Go make it happen.
Thanks for listening. Did you enjoy what you heard? Want to buy this book? Please use the link in the description to support the channel.